Hello, and welcome to the Say It Out Loud podcast. I am your host, Christine Daynard, and the goal of this podcast is to encourage you to live your best and most authentic life by digging deeper and finding connection through vulnerability. I believe we have been taught that vulnerability is a weakness, when in fact, it is our superpower. In this space, I will share personal stories and conversations with others so you can be empowered by their strength and inspired to take action in your own life. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's get started. Actually, let's take a breath together. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Say It Out Loud podcast with me, Christine D. And I have the honor of having not only a beautiful guest come here today and chat with me around Sunshine Island in my kitchen studio, but not only is this person a beautiful person and what she does is incredible in this world, but she is also a friend and she is one of my co-hosts of the Bloom event coming up on March 23rd, 2024. Just going to give that a little plug there. So I have sitting with me the wonderful, the one and only Kim Basler. Kim, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today.
Oh, thank you. It feels so good to be sitting here around Sunshine Island looking at you. Thank you for having me here with you.
I love this. I love how our worlds have intertwined. And actually, interestingly enough, we were talking right before we started talking here formally in the podcast about how our circles of people have been very close for a very long time in our lives, but we more recently have become more connected and become friends. And so I remember my very first memory, and we were talking about how Kim doesn't remember me. It's okay. She ignored me. It's fine. But many, many years ago, I was like an avid workout queen at the Good Life Fitness downtown Kitchener. Like, I think I literally went every day, 7 days a week, 2 hours at a time. Like, I was my ass looked amazing, but I was there all the time. And I remember you worked there.
Yeah.
And we never really chatted. Like, I went in there with my earbuds in and did my shit and got the hell out, right? So I was never one to really stick around and get social at the gym, which is kind of funny that I said that out loud, but anyways, but you were always there. And then I would see you often, like out at the clubs and stuff with different people that we always had people that we knew of each other, like in each other's circles, but never really talked even then. Like, cause you don't remember me.
No,
from
I don't
that time.
remember you
No.
from Good Life days.
I apparently wasn't memorable then.
You were still coming out of your shell at that point. No, but I think that's what's so cool is that our paths go back that far, right? Nothing's by accident. And, that's a long time ago. Market Square, downtown Kitchener, that's a long time ago.
Right? Like, I'm 48 now. And at the time I was like early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like, let's do the math. Is that 25, 30, like, is that 30 years ago? Or is that 20 years ago?
Well, I'm just thinking for me, I started 1991 is when I started teaching, and I was 16 at the time. That's how far. And I mean, yeah, because went into Market Square just a few years after that. So we're going back.
Wow.
It's a lot of math for me, but it's a long time.
Yeah, I don't do math. It's like anytime I can avoid doing math, let's not do the math and embarrass ourselves here. But I just think it's so neat how we're in each other's circles even at that time, but never knew each other. Mm-hmm. And even more recently in the last several years, like I know since I started my entrepreneurship journey, I've seen you in circles again, sort of you kind of resurfaced in my world. And again, we never really connected all that much. Went to a couple of events together, maybe had a little conversation, but nothing major. And then all of a sudden in this last couple years, this relationship has really bloomed and we've really gotten to know each other on a very different level than ever before. And I just feel so honored about that. Like, I don't know how or when the universe decided to put us together again, but it's just been kind of really cool and magical to get to know you.
Well, thank you. And I'm sitting here at this beautiful Sunshine Island. And I remember coming here one evening when I was going through a season with my business. And that was probably our first time that we really had some time together one-on-one, which was really amazing. And here we are now. And I think this is the power of showing up as yourself. And that's what you and I do. And allows people to see us. And then those people come into our lives. So as much as our journey goes so far back, I definitely feel like the last few years have really allowed us. I mean, we've went on some little day trips together and guess where trips and all those fun things. We've had a lot of fun, but we've also we've had a lot of fun, and we've also shed some good tears together, which has allowed us to really deepen our friendship. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And what I really love, and for anybody listening, maybe you have friends like this in your circle and maybe you don't, but what I have found so profound about my relationship with you and actually all the Bloom ladies, I call us the Bloom ladies, is that not only have we become friends, but it's like we are literally not only helping each other up the stepping stones of our personal development, but we are also the stepping stones in each other's personal development. And that it's just been so cool to not only get to know us as a group, as a whole, but to also, I love how I've separated out all these friendships with each of you as well. And this connection I have with you has just becoming stronger and stronger as we get to know each other. And it's funny, as you say, as we lean into more of who we are, right? It's like when you just show up as who you are, it's amazing who you attract and how those relationships turn into something. And I was on a tangent here. Hold on. It didn't go anywhere I wanted to, but I think where I was going with this is that sometimes we have friendships that like last a very short period of time in our lives. Sometimes they last a really long period of time in our lives. And often, I know for me, I had a lot of friendships that didn't really connect. Like I had a lot of people in my life, had a lot of friends in my life, but not really deep connections, not people that I felt super safe and comfortable with. And like where my actual central nervous system sort of calms down when I'm with those people to just be more of myself and practice being more of myself with. So I don't know about you, but I certainly have felt that with my relationship with you and the Bloom ladies. But I've felt this like growing relationship with us and how powerful that is to have a true connection with women as friends, instead of this sort of surface, I'm not sure where I really fit in or where I really belong in that friendship. Like what are they saying about me behind my back? How do I fit in there when I walk in a room, and I don't feel right? What's that about? Right. And I'm learning what that's about. But for a long time, I lived with friends like that. Do you?
100%, I agree with you. And what I can feel right now is a level of safety. Mm-hmm. And that's when we start to, if I look at my relationship with you, with the other Bloom ladies, is I can speak from myself where I started to, I'd feel something, I'd feel an insecurity, I'd feel some type of feeling. And instead of pushing it down, ignoring it, telling myself a story about it, we and I continued to open up about those feelings. And that allows other people to pour into us or hold space for us, whatever that looks like. And this is this piece of us growing individually, but also growing as such a wonderful friendship amongst the four of us. And I can honestly say, like, I feel so very seen and safe with you. And I sit here looking at you right now. I just feel that. So thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being that person in my life, which is proof that no matter, some people don't have friends, you hear this sometimes, a lot of people are alone. They don't have those deep friendships. Allow yourself to stay open to them because they're out there, right? But it does allow us, we have to step out into those places. We have to go to events alone. We have to show up and allow that to come into our lives. It's possible.
And a big thing that shows up for me, like even as you're talking, it's like, and something I've been reflecting a lot on lately is how for my entire life, I wanted deep connection with the people that were in my life. And I never felt it. Not with romantic partners, not with friends. I've never felt it until more recently. And what's really interesting is that, if any of you, especially those of you who are listening and you're like, I know you hear me when I say, I can't really fully be myself with those people, or you go into different arenas where you're like, you're one person with one group of people, or you're another person right? Like your level of comfort is a lot different. And it's sort of hard to like find your tribe. Like we hear all about this, find your tribe. But often I find that it's on a very surface level. Mm-hmm. And I went through most of my entire life, and including adult life, never really having full, deep friendships, trustworthy friendships that I could trust my full heart with those people.
Yeah. And I guess I totally agree with what you're saying, but I'm also looking at my own journey as I had to also go through my own healing in order for me to allow myself to be seen and received and loved and valued to the people that I'm with, because I made my own stories up too. I'm the one that held myself back. I'm the one that told myself I wasn't deserving to be in those spaces. So as much as we have to allow ourselves to find those people, we also have to do our own individual work, right? So, because in order for me to be able to receive your friendship, receive your words of encouragement, whatever, I had to know that I was valued enough to do that. I had to know that I was deserving enough to receive that from you. So it goes both ways, I guess.
Well, it is in that personal growth journey. So I think part of why I wanted to sort of say that is, for those people that are listening that are like, well, I don't even have friendships like that. Like, I don't even think I could have a conversation on a podcast with somebody who's a friend. Like, I'd be afraid, like, what do I say? What do I not say? And I literally don't even ever think about that when I'm with you. I just say, right? I just say it. I know it's coming from a good place, a good intention. I never mean anything negative by whatever I say. And we always talk things out. Whatever's going on, it's like we're feeling different things. We always seem to find a way to talk it out or find like where's the growth opportunity in this, right? It's always like that growth opportunity. And I think I just kind of wanted to start there because I think a lot of people who are listening feel like they're either in that place where I was describing where they don't have those people in their life yet. And they're wondering like, okay, hi, I'm 55 or I'm 43 or I'm 62 and I don't have those people in my life yet. What's wrong with me? I just want to say there is nothing wrong with you. That life is a journey and really it's not a destination. We hear this all the time. I know it's super cliche, but that as we do the work and as we become more of ourselves, which I really, of course, am encouraging more and more people to do, right? The whole purpose of the Say It Out Loud podcast is to talk about the things, right? Know you're less alone. And like, this is another example of being less alone. I felt so alone a lot of my life. And now coming into my late 40s, which I think is partially age, right? Partially wisdom, but also that choice to like do the work, to not only just accept what is given to me or the people I'm surrounded by, but to go out and choose them and know that I'm worthy of choosing them, right? And so I just wanted to say that for anyone who's listening that's like wondering when that's going to happen for them. Listen, like we could both attest to this. I don't want to speak for you, Kim, but I can certainly say that the more that you lean into getting to know who you are, and what makes you tick basically, and what makes you thrive, what makes you feel good. And you lean more into those things, you show up in that way. And therefore you attract more people that are like you and, or that honestly help you heal further.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I always say your energy tells a story. I pay attention to my energy at the beginning of my journey. How do I feel with these people or doing this thing, whether it's people, whatever I'm doing, how do I feel when I'm with these people? And ultimately, it's there for me to explore. Why is it that I feel like that with these people? What is that about? What is it with these other people? And to do that work for yourself and to be able to sit with yourself and really explore what it is that you're feeling and why you feel that way. It's important. It's part of this journey. And we change. The more we change, the more what we requires not the right word, what we look for in a friendship will change. Our time is limited. I've learned in the last few years that I really love my alone time too. So if I'm going to spend time with people, I want to make sure they're people that are going to add to my life, not feel like I have to carry them along, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. And like at the more beginning, I guess, stages of this podcast, I shared about a friendship breakup that I had. And I've had a number of friendship breakups over the last couple of years. I would say even more than it's been ongoing, I guess, throughout my life, but how important it is to recognize, you don't necessarily have to go through a formal breakup, with someone. You don't have to necessarily even say, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. It doesn't have to work like that. It can sometimes just, sort of happen softly, or you just stop kind of engaging in similar things and eventually that sort of drops off, but that it's okay to let these other friendships go because, and I think this, like my heart keeps just telling me like, this is proof of the more that you trust yourself and you allow the things go in your life that don't serve you or don't make you feel, or don't help you feel good, don't help you be at your best, you can let them go. And there's always this like fear, like if I'm letting these people go, where am I going to find people? Like, I don't want to have no friends, right?
Yeah, which is why people hold on to friendships that are not helping them, right?
And relationships of all kinds.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, just talking about this and saying like, it took me a long time. It took me being bullied in school. It took me going through all of my childhood, growing up in my teenage years, drinking and partying and being the fun girl to fit in my 20s and early 30s. Like all of these things I was trying to do to attract my people when really I was going on the opposite grain of who I was in order to attract people who weren't really my people, or maybe were the people at that time to help me kind of take that
to
step,
learn, right? Yeah. And I mean, I look at it from the angle too, for me, I look at some of my past friendships where I felt like I was the one that always was giving. I was the one that was always reaching out. I was the one that was always saying, hey, can we get together? And I got to a point where I was like, why am I? And so instead of this big, huge, breakup, it was just a gentle, spending a little bit less time, not reaching out. I always say this, I said to my kids too, like, your friends will show you who they are. And I look at our friendship, I look at many of my friendships, it's like when there's mutual, it's like, I'm thinking about you. Hey, this just happened. Can I share this with you? This is what I'm going through. This is mutual friendship. And that's what I look forward to now. Yeah.
Oh, and I love it so much. I love you.
I love you too.
Okay, mushy gushy aside, because everyone's like, oh my God, shut up already. But so I would just love for you to maybe talk to our whoever's listening a little bit about what you do in the world. Like, how are you helping people? Because I fully believe that, like, once we are kind of coming into our own, and once we are realizing that there's more going on out in the world than just us, right? The world does not revolve around us. We're here to help others, right? Yeah. Like, ultimately, I think that's everyone's purpose is how do we give back and help? And I know you give back and help in such a beautiful way in the world. And I'd love for you to share with the people that are listening what it is that you do and how you help women today or people today.
Yeah. Thank you. And I was sitting here going, this is always this powerful question of, look, what do I do? Because we do so many things, right? I think the work that I do, I know that the work that I do comes from my own growth and my own healing and my own story. So I support women who are struggling with themselves on some level, their self-worth. So that can look like many things. That could look like a woman who is feeling like she's not enough and she's caught up in a relationship with food that is not supporting her. So whether feeling like she's got to always be chasing another diet to lose more weight, her worth is caught up in her body. That type of relationship I understand because I felt like my whole worth was attached to how my body looked. Growing up, working in the fitness industry since I was 16 years old, going on my first diet at 12. So I want women to understand that, yes, we can be healthy and yes, we should take care of ourselves, but that's going to look different for all of us. So this whole piece around the food relationship, the body image relationship is a big part of the work that I do. Then the other part of the work that I do is a lot around mindset. This is about supporting our growth, our own healing, the path of self-love. And I know self-love is such a huge title and it's an overused word, but that's essentially what so much of the work that I do is wrapped around. Working on the subconscious, working on what we say to ourselves, because what we speak into ourselves is what we truly start to believe about who we are. So I love working at a subconscious level with women, helping them to feel confident, or at least, not maybe confidence too big of a word right now, but knowing that they do have value and helping them start to see that value. There's so many things that happen in our life that chip away at our self-worth and our self-esteem. And I am here to help women find that within themselves, one block at a time, to rebuild who they are so that they can look at that woman that they see in the mirror and actually start to see her again. We spend so much time like outside of ourselves, and I can say this because I did it, and not even knowing who that person is anymore. And I think that's what happens with women as they get older and maybe their kids go off to university or college, or just changes happen, and all of a sudden they're like, well, who am I? Because they've spent so much of their life being for everyone else, and they forget who they are. We're not here to be of service always to other people. We value and we deserve to be ourselves too and be proud of that, so that we don't slip away. Because ultimately what you've already said is that we do have a deeper purpose. I truly believe we have a deeper purpose. I come from the belief that everything that has happened to in our life is here to help us be that version of who we are today. And I also believe that we're here to help one another. We're not here to keep the lessons we've learned to ourselves. So, one-on-one coaching, group spaces. I still teach fitness. I had to step away from the gym environment. I was working in the gyms for 27, 28 years when I had to begin my own healing journey from disordered eating and eating disorder history and over-exercising. I had to step away from that and work on my mental health and work on healing my version of me. So I still teach in a very different capacity, helping women take care of themselves, but not about a number on a scale or the size of jeans that they're wearing. So that's a little bit about how I help.
Hey, I'm just going to interrupt this episode right here for a second because I want to invite you to join me in the Joy Project community. It's a place where me and a sisterhood of women are building meaningful connections with each other, where we don't feel the need to hold back or put on our best face. We just show up as we are. It's a place to be encouraged to say the things out loud, to build your confidence, to learn about yourself, and learn how to lean into your authenticity. It might be time for you to consider joining us. If you're feeling the pull for deeper connections, you want to have more honest conversations, and find a place you belong simply by being you. We meet online every week, and we host an in-person social once every few months within the Waterloo region. So if you're feeling the pull to be a part of a group of women who are leaning in to focus on the good, to see life with a half cup full perspective and lifting each other up, this just might be what you've been looking for. Learn more and join us by visiting itsmechristined.ca/community. I really can't wait to see you in there. Man, and how much of our worth is really wrapped up in that size and that label. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I have like put down an item because I have to like buy the extra size bigger, and I don't want that size label in my clothing. Like I have done that to myself many, many, many times. Or like won't shop in a store because I'm like, ooh, I don't know if they're going to like, I won't even try because it's like, I'm afraid that my body is going to not fit into whatever is available. Size of that number is such a big thing. And, I learned something from someone once. They talked about like, just buy clothes that you feel good in. Because whatever size you are now, you may or may not be that size forever, right? You're going to flex. Like life is going to happen. Things happen, right? You have kids, you go through stressful times, you do all these things in life. And those clothes are like ebb and flow. And if they fit you today, awesome. Loving them, fit in them, like wear them, feel good in them. And if they don't, then set them aside, put them in a bin, give them away. Like it's just a flow. Like everything is a flow. Life is a flow, right?
Yeah.
And it's like what you're talking about, this journey of like, even like respecting and honoring every version of ourselves that we have been, because it gets us to where we are today and gives us an opportunity to look back and kind of reflect these mirrors, with other people. You and I do similar kinds of work and slightly different, but similar kinds of work. So it's like, holding that mirror up for people and being able to see them where they're at because we understand it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I've been there. I know your pain. Like I can't feel your pain directly. Your pain is different than my pain. You are different than me, but we share this commonality. And so many of us as women, especially so many of us women, we share so many things together, but often stay in our own little compartments because we feel like we're so alone in what we're experiencing.
Totally.
And that we're weirdos because we're experiencing this thing.
Yeah.
But we're not at all.
And that's the damaging effect of shame. Is it silences us? It makes us feel so alone. And I mean, I'm not saying things that, maybe this is new to whoever's listening, but shame loves, darkness. Shame loves secrecy. And that's why we have to have these conversations so that we recognize, somebody else feels, and it, as you said, like your path is different than mine, but the foundation, I always say that the foundation, the roots are coming from the same place. Unworthiness, whether a lot of the time it's unworthiness, and when we talk about it because this is the power of healing, is let me shine some light into you. I love this analogy of like, we have wounds and we have, we've bandaged up these wounds with awards and titles and all the things that we've been collecting, the fancy car and the handbags. Okay. But underneath, if we can let some light seep into those wounds, people see us and we recognize who we are. I don't need to have the cars. I don't need to have the handbags. I just need to love who I am, see who I am. Right?
And it's such a beautiful place to be able to help people get to, to help guide them along the journey that, like I know for me, I didn't have any support along in the journey, really. It was just, it was my instinct, my gut saying, there's something more here. Just keep going, right? Just keep trying, just keep showing up, just keep trying the things. Listen to your gut. So it's like, whether that was leaving friends behind, leaving jobs behind, leaving whatever behind, just to kind of make that next step. And all the people around me always told me that I was nuts. Don't do this, don't do that. You're crazy. You got to keep that job. What are you going to do? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no. I'm just going to trust myself that I know better because I'm trusting me. I'm not trusting you for me. Because how does that work? Why would I, right? Because this is what we do in society. We're taught to like look outside of us, is what you're referring to, right? It's like, look outside of us for for our worth and our value and how we belong. But all of our worth and value and love is right inside. And the more that we heal that, the more that we put together, take all those wounds and build on them and grow from them and heal them and patch them up, we're able to like not only help ourselves move forward and do amazing things, but also to be a beacon for other women and help them do the same thing. Like imagine how many women, even just you and I alone in this podcast episode with whoever listens, imagine the impact that this conversation alone can make on someone realizing that they're not alone in the shit that they're in right now.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the ultimate goal, is that to be able to build that relationship with yourself, self-trust, to trust myself no matter whether I make a mistake, whether I fall back down, I know that I can get myself back up again and try again. And it's got nothing to do with my level of success, right? Like we have to be able, I think that there's a time where we sometimes have to lean on other people to help see within us what they see in us. I think there's a time for that. But my goal always with all of my clients is for them to be able to recognize that they can learn how to use these tools on their own. I don't want anyone, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, we look outside, tell me what to do. I'm not okay. I don't know. I can speak to this because I didn't trust myself. So I looked outside of myself for everything. And I still, in truth, it's still a journey for me. But when we can be able to find that wisdom within ourselves, whether it's the right, I believe every path is the right path because I chose it, right? And it's going to teach me something. But I don't want anyone to feel like they have to be dependent on someone. That's, from a coaching standpoint, my job is here people always joke and say, oh my gosh, Kim, you have so many questions. Kim's got a question for everything. Well, yeah, because I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to support you and maybe share a little bit of my journey. But ultimately, I don't want my path to be your path because that's not how it's meant to be. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think too, we often don't try something because we don't know what the outcome's going to be. Right. So we don't step off the cliff because we're like, oh my God, where's the net? Where's the net? Where's the net? Right. Like we don't want to jump off because we have no idea how it's going to look.
Yep.
And the truth is, like, really, when you think about life, none of us ever really know how the outcome's going to be. Right. We don't know how we're going to die. We don't know when it's going to happen. We don't know where exactly we're going to end up or where that relationship is going to take us or what's going to happen. And we make all these plans thinking that we have to have every detail sorted out and every plan made in order to take that step. But in reality, almost none of those plans work out the way you plan anyway.
Well, yeah. And ultimately, if you think you're supposed to go down one direction and you keep forcing yourself to go down that path, well, then maybe that's not the path for you. In full truth, as I like to show up, I'm still in that place. I'm 48 years old too. My mind goes, you don't have a lot of time. Like, you got to make sure you do it right this time. And so I catch myself a lot. This is probably where I'm at right now. So much in my life is trusting. Trust is such a huge word for me. I think I need to take vitamin T every day, but that's really what it's about, is it's trusting that everything's going to work out. Just as a side note, I just finished The Untethered Soul by Michael J. Singer. And one of the last chapters is contemplating death. And it's such a profound title of a chapter, but it is truthfully living each day as if it could be your last, because as you said, we don't know. So can we show up more? Can we be more present in our relationships? Can we take more risks? Can we do more things that will let our hearts be seen, right? In whatever capacity that looks. That's what it's about. And this is scary shit. I'm not going to float over this if it's easy. It's not easy, but it is 100% worth it. And the more you live like this, the easier life feels, because we're not creating our own resistance, right?
Well, and it also just becomes so much more fulfilling, right? It's because what you're doing isn't trying to fill the cup of somebody else necessarily, although that's, I guess, part of what we do in a sense. It's kind of funny. You can use different words in different places, but when you really fill back your own cup, you have so much more to give, number one. I was telling you this story the other day where I was coming home from an event and I ended up taking a really long way home. So I was taking the GO train to Toronto and took the GO train home, and it didn't land me back all the way to Kitchener. It took me to Mount Forest, the middle of fucking nowhere. And all of a sudden, I've got my earpods in and I'm listening, and someone's like, "Excuse me, miss, are you going to Kitchener?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, this is the last stop. We're not going to Kitchener." And I was like, "What?" So anyway, long and the short of it, again, this is kind of funny because it's well, you planned your route home. I'm taking the train. All of a sudden, the train doesn't go home. What do you do? Right? This is life. This is a metaphor. So sure enough, turns out we have to take the train back a few stops back to Bramalea and then get off the train. And then there is no train to Kitchener. Now we have to get on the bus and take the GO bus back home. And of course, first my mind goes, oh my God, this is fucking ridiculous. Why am I having to spend all this time just, get home? And then I was like, no, Christine, we don't think like that anymore. That's not what we think, right? So it's like, we're just going to lean in. We just came back from an amazing 2 days where you were soaking up all this love from these people you're around. That's a story for another time. And you're now just like, you're on the journey home, just like trust that whatever will be, will be. And I get on the bus and I sit on the aisle seat to begin with. And at first I'm like, there's not gonna be that many people going to Kitchener, right? Like there can't be that on a Friday night. Well, sure enough, it was a full bus. So as I see the bus filling up, I move over to the seat and I let this girl sit down beside me. She's like, well, can I sit beside you? And so she sat down beside me and we ended up having this really beautiful connection and conversation. And not only because I was showing up as myself, wearing colors that I wear because I like to be bright and light, and also because they make me happy, that she recognized in the color and how I presented myself to the world that I was safe for her to sit beside. So she told me that she knew that I was safe and joyful to sit beside just by how I was dressed. I wasn't like everybody else in wearing the black and white. She knew that this was a safe space. And then as we got to talking, it turns out she had just lost her mom, who was 53 years old. She was 5 years older than us. Oh, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Totally.
And like sitting here talking to this girl, we had this beautiful and amazing conversation, connections all over the place, which isn't really the purpose of this share, but it's like that moment can happen anytime. Mm-hmm. We are not in control of that. Mm-hmm. And I find that so many of us sit in autopilot, or we get mad when like the train doesn't take us all the way back to where we're supposed to go. It's like there is always something else at work here. It's not just about us. It's about the journey home, mm-hmm. right? Home to us, right? And so in that moment, it was like, I feel like I was put in that train or that bus to sit beside that girl and pour some love into her after losing her mom 2 months ago. And then having this amazing connection conversation, not only because she needed it, but because she felt comfortable, drawn to me because I was presenting myself as my full self, mm-hmm. right? Like how beautiful is that?
It's so beautiful. It's beautiful for both of you, right? Like versus what could that bus ride or train ride or whatever it was look like instead,
right?
You could have been sitting there mad, frustrated. Instead, you had a beautiful heart-to-heart conversation with a stranger. And we're like, that beautiful expression is strangers are only friends we haven't met yet.
Yeah.
And I know that you've shared this with me that you connected on such a beautiful level. I love that story so much.
Yeah. And like, what opportunities do we miss when we're not just leaning into life? Life is here to surprise and delight us. Mm-hmm. It's not here to take us down. And when we're in life and we feel like we're being taken down, it's probably because we're choosing things for the wrong reasons or there's a lesson to be learned, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, mm-hmm. instead of looking at like it's trying to take me down, it's like, what is it telling me? What mm-hmm. am I here for? What am I learning from this? What should I be looking at here? What can I shift in myself to be able to make progress or make it different than this, shitstorm that I'm creating for myself? Because ultimately that's what it is, right?
Well, and I'm smiling because I'm listening to all your questions. What? Notice, everyone, the power of those questions. They started with a what. They didn't start with a why. Okay, why tends to keep us in victim. Why does this keep happening? You're at this. A friend of mine says this all the time. Like when you want a different outcome, if you want to learn something, you have to start to ask yourself different questions. And that's what helps. Because if you have the same thing continue to resurface, you keep attracting a certain type of person or whatever, ask yourself, what are you missing here? And I agree with you. Like, and I say that everybody's paths are different. And sometimes I know it might be harder to look for the lesson in something. And sometimes things just happen and we have to accept that things just happen. But this is truly what we're sharing to help you move through maybe a place in your life where you're feeling stuck right now. So I just love those questions that you were asking yourself.
And it really is changing the question, and I think we spend so much of our time living on autopilot, mm-hmm. not really thinking about what we're doing. We just get comfortable with where we're at.
Well, and it's just where the mind goes, right? Yeah. The mind is programmed to it's like if you're always taking the same road and the same pathway to get to work, you can turn off, right? You can just turn off and just your car will just naturally go there because you're going through autopilot. That's how we're living our life because it's the easiest path for where our mind and brain is supposed to go, right? But ultimately, if you want a different outcome, you're going to have to start to create a new way of getting there. And that takes presence. Like you have to be present in your life.
And honestly, and I feel like you and I could sit here and talk for days. And I'm sure, although the listeners would love that,
You would, right?
But it's such a beautiful opportunity to show people just in this conversation that even though it's hard to do, even though thinking differently, looking at things differently, making change is hard, we are both sitting here as living proof of the worth in that, the value of that. Like I have so much, I'm so humble in what has happened in my life as a result of leaning more into who I am and understanding that I'm actually really kind of in control of more than what I ever thought I was. And it starts with our thoughts. It starts with what we think about ourselves. It starts with how we ask ourselves questions and what we tell ourselves and the programs that we allow to run. But that eventually when we put a stop to them, we can not only develop ourselves, but develop these really cool relationships that help you go, right? Help you keep going and fostering that growth in each other. And then it just becomes easier. It's like you have to go through, someone didn't describe it quite like this, but I'll describe it like this, is like you have to go through this mucky middle in order to get to nicer times or better weather or whatever, right? It's like, look here in Ontario, we have to go through this shitty winter and sometimes a shitty spring to come out on the other side to the summer that's more beautiful and it's warm and it's sunny, right? It's like we as humans have to go through those seasons too.
Yeah. And those seasons will continue to come. And I think that's the more we recognize that they're going to come, expect another season to come.
Yes.
And so it's like, if I'm going through a mucky season right now, where can I also still, find some sunshine in my life? What does that look like? Because that's what helps keep us moving forward, right? That's really, really important, is this duality of life, the ups and downs, and they can be both present. I can be sad about something, but I can also find gratitude in it too, right? Can we do that? This is, again, I think of The Untethered Soul. So
it's a great book. And I love that. Find the sunshine. As we literally sit around Sunshine Island, it is a choice. Living a good and joyful life is a choice, and I love that you and I have chosen to travel that path, and that we're here sharing bits of our hearts to encourage other people to consider that aspect as well. And that it doesn't have to be what it is right now. You can change it. You have the power to change it any minute. You have the power to change your belief system any minute, any time. You believe in something, you can change that belief anytime you want. You just have to want it bad enough to make the change.
That's exactly it. Right? That's exactly it.
So I would love to keep talking. And in fact, of course, I'm going to have you come back another time. And of course, we're going to be hosting this amazing event, the Bloom event, on March 23rd, 2024. There's another little plug with the other two amazing ladies who I plan on having us do like a quattro sort of podcast interview at some point, chat. I think that will be super fun. We can share that energy with people.
I love that.
I just love that there are people like us and people that are out in the world that are looking to help others. And it's like we are now the light for others when we needed the light for ourselves, right? So I'm so grateful to have you as part of my light and for coming and chatting with me today. And I would love for you to share with our listeners where they can find you, where they can follow you, and if they're interested in learning more about you, where can they go to do that?
Oh, thank you. I have loved this. Time flew by. So thank you for it. I'm everything. Everywhere you look, you'll find me under Kim Basler. So my website is kimbasler.com. That's BASLER. Instagram, Kim Basler _food freedom. And Facebook's that too. That's where the two platforms that I tend to be the most on is Facebook and Instagram. Pretty present on there in my stories. So come say hi and allow me to, be a part of your life in whatever way that looks for you right now. I'd love to be able to do that for you.
And she dances in her kitchen all the time. So if you need an energy boost or a reminder to plug back in or just get silly for a second, Kim is your girl to just even help you revisit that, right?
Find your hips again.
I love it. This has been an amazing conversation. And to our listeners, thank you so much for being here with us today. I hope there was something in it for you. And you know what? Just like any other conversation we have here, pick up what's for you, drop down what's not, and keep rolling. Keep loving yourself. Keep moving forward because there's more there. There's more out there for you. And when you say it out loud, when you own it out loud, and when you own it out loud, even for yourself, there's movement. It's a forward motion. Trust yourself. Love yourself. And we got you back. We'll see you again next time. Thank you for listening to this episode. I'd like to invite you to hit the follow button on this podcast so you'll be notified when the next one drops. And if you liked this episode, please leave a review, as it will help others to find this message. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at It's Me, Christine D. Or if you'd like to connect about being a guest on the show, ask me about group or one-on-one joy and mindset coaching, learn more about the Joy Project community, or consider hiring me for your next speaking engagement, please visit itsmechristинed.ca. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.